Hello, friends. Bear says hi too. Today I am back with another movie review. As soon as Bear settles down here. No, he wanted water. He's a loud pup. So, today we're talking about The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which stars Judd Apatow. Oh no, it doesn't star Judd Apatow. It stars Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen, Catherine Henner, I think is her name. Kat Dennings is also in it. There's also a brief cameo by, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Kevin Hart. He's a character in the movie. So, if you haven't seen The 40-Year-Old Virgin, as the title would imply, Steve Carell's character plays a 40-year-old virgin, and his co-workers, played by Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen, and Montel, I'm blanking on his name, I'm sorry, are trying to help him fix that problem. And it's a lot of wacky hijinks ensue. So, there's a lot to like about this movie. There's a lot of good, funny set pieces in it. And if you're not familiar with the term set piece, would be like a scene that's funny, and it's like a scene that has to happen. They call that a set piece. And usually, what happens with filmmaking and filmmakers and writers is that they'll think of the funny scene first and then build the film around that. So while sometimes they might have been like, well, what if there was a guy who was a 40-year-old virgin? That might be one way for the movie to start, to have the seed be planted. But another way might be like, what if we had a guy who needs to have his chest waxed? And then they could that'd be funny, and they could build a scene around that. And then they could build the movie around the scene. How can we work this funny scene into a film? So, excuse me, sorry. I had tacos with beans for dinner, so a little burpy. Oh, I also had a Diet Pepsi. Diet Pepsi makes me burpy for some reason. Anyway, so that's kind of, the movie. I think Steve Carell is excellent in this film. I think Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen also do a fantastic job. So does Montel. I can't remember his name. Sorry if you're watching Montel. I'm sure you're not. I think so that's great. But the flip side of that is there are some things I don't like about this movie, and the chief of which, and what really surrounds it, is that it's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, which my personal stance is that almost no comedy film should be over 90 minutes, and this film is definitely not an exception. While there's a lot of great set pieces, there's also a phrase in writing you might have heard called "kill your darlings," which means there's probably scenes in your movie that you love, and even you might have filmed them and you love them, but they don't serve the story and they need to get axed for the good of the movie as a whole. And this film has a lot of those scenes. So I think, for my money, what I think happened with this movie is that they basically made two films. They made this buddy comedy that Judd Apatow is known for, and that Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen, Steve Carell, Jonah Hill, all those guys are known for. And then they made this romantic comedy, and then they just mashed them together. And that's the 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I think that's why it falls a little short. They really should have just made one film or the other. It should have been the buddy film that has all the wacky hijinks and the fun set pieces. And then, they really shouldn't have made the love interest such a big part of the movie. With you have the subplot with her teenage daughter and stuff. That really shouldn't have been more successful film. From my standpoint, I think I would have liked it a lot better. I think, really, if we're being honest, I think they could have made. I mean, the Superstore stuff could have been its own movie, and I think that's the stronger movie. Because the stuff that happens with Catherine Henner, even though I love her and I love Kat Dennings, I felt like that was the weaker part of the movie, and also it doesn't really kick in until like you're already like an hour into the film. Like you don't like yes, she's introduced early into the film and she like comes up here and there, but the arc it just like gets started way too late, and like you're just meandering, and it's just like it's like a buddy film. And the story just moves so slow because it's such a long movie. Because they're just trying to like shove all these funny things in, and like, oh look, you had a bad date, and like, yeah, that's great and that's fun and all, but like, doesn't really serve the story. The story just takes too long to get where it needs to go because there's just all these extra scenes for fun, and then you even have kind of the subplots. You know, you've got the Jay's character. He gets into a fight with Kevin Hart at one point, and like it's a funny scene, and it makes sense in the context of a buddy film. But then you have like the Jay subplot with his girlfriend, fiance, whatever she is, Jill, and like she comes in like all these different times, and you're like, that all could get cut. Like we don't need to see any of that, you know. Then you also have Paul Rudd has a subplot where he broke up with Minnie Kaling. I said how you pronounce her name. You from The Office. And it's just like that also could be X'd out. It doesn't really need to happen. Excuse me. So that's kind of what I think. I think the movie could just use a lot more cutting. And you know, sometimes I see like, oh, so and so made a bootleg, like they made their version. Steven Soderbergh recut 2001. I'm like, maybe I should recut some of these comedy films, because I think I could easily pull 20-30 minutes out of the 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think, you know, the Semish cut would be much tighter and to the point, and I think it would be a better film. I think it would be more remembered, and because I think right now when you think of the 40-Year-Old Virgin, you think of like some of the set pieces or some of the lines that you're like, that was great. But if you go back and rewatch it, you would probably be like, yeah, this movie is just a little too long. So that's my review of the 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think give it a chance. It's a really good background movie, like a movie to put on the background, because it's not hard to follow the plot at all. And when you tune in, like there's almost always funny things happening. And I think if you like this film, I think you would obviously like all the other Judd Apatow films, and other, you know, buddy films. You know, I Love You, Man. That's one that I really like. But I think also because I like Jason Segel a lot. He's great because I relate to him. Almost every role he plays, I feel like I'm very similar. You know, most Kevin Smith films would also fall under, you know, Clerks 2. I would say Mallrats, but I know a lot of people, it's not that good of a film. It has a special place in my heart. Die Hard 3, that's a buddy film. It's a buddy cop film, but it still works. So it was like The Nice Guys, The Other Guys, those are buddy cop films. But I think that's what the meat of this film is. If you like this film, you would like kind of the buddy genre. Kevin Smith nails that. Judd Apatow nails that. Trying to think of some other ones that are like good buddy films that are like off the charts that you might not know of. You can look at films even like Hot Rod, which isn't like totally a buddy film, but like it's kind of like the same sort of ensemble buddy where it's like there's the main character and then he's like friends with a couple people and it's the buddy with a group. So I don't know. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. Let me know what you think down in the comments about the 40-year-old virgin. Let's chew some fat. Let's talk about movies, because it seems like I don't want to put words in my viewer's mouth, but it does seem like the viewer numbers are up. The view counts are usually up on movie things, so I think I'm gonna lean in a little more heavy on movies. But obviously, I'm still gonna whisper about day-to-day life, and we're doing more self-development ASMR. I'm getting it. I'm starting that course. It's 4 weeks, so when I'm done with the course that I'm taking on, how to take your ideas and put them into content, we're gonna be seeing a lot of that stuff. So get ready to improve your life dramatically, because 2021's coming, and we're gonna crush it. I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna help you crush it. But to crush it, we need to get some sleep, right? So close your eyes, turn off your electronics, get some sleep, wake up, crush the day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.